Good evening, everyone. Let me make sure for those of you joining us over the Zoom, are you guys able to hear us? Can you guys see the screen? So in previous few sessions, I always forget to share my screen. That's very bad. So I have to re-record my sessions. So very happy to be here. Thanks for joining us. So I don't want to spend too much time to introduce ourselves, but this time I just want to highlight. So my name is Yongkang. Together with me, that's Chirag and also Boomi. So together we got like 100 times multi-cloud certified. So happy to be here to continue to support the community. So today we have a lot of cool stuff to share. And I did ask everybody to bring your laptop. So we're going to have some hands-on as well. So this is what I put together. Hold on, let me see. Is that working?
Hey, sorry. Yeah, I can see the screen now. Yeah.
Can see the screen?
Yeah, I can see now.
Okay, good. Yeah, first of all, thanks to our sponsors. I do have Google to support us. So they do provide the food, and also there is a few additional swags here. After each of the session, we're going to ask a very simple question. So for anyone gets the answer, we're going to give away one, swag here. And I also have a sticker to provide some, stickers. So it's not about a sticker, it's about the, solution might be able to help you. So for anyone interested, I got a Farco, stickers and also stickers. Feel free to take one, anytime here. And I also have a Cloud Casa to support us, to sponsor us. I don't know if anyone hold a sticker or Cloud Casa, but obviously everybody knows Google Cloud. So I do have a little bit towards my topic. I will talk a little bit more about the SysTick and also Cloud Casa. So first of all, our mission, it's more about, we are very much, trying to help the community to learn faster. That's why I set up the group back to August. So by now we got 650 plus members. So this is the third time we're running the meetup here. And the reason I set up the Kubernetes meetup is it is so hard to learn. There are lots of stuff you need to learn. So for the past two, I already learned a little bit of other Kubernetes trends and also how to automate the Kubernetes cluster, how to enable the container backups. The last session, we also talk about Red Hat OpenShift and also Kubernetes monitoring. So for today's session, we will have a little bit more focusing on Google Cloud. So this is the one we put together from our first session, just a few pictures to show you. So how crowded the group is. On the left-hand side, that's the first time. We only have like about 14 people on site. The second time, we got 5 times more people. And this time I did not count yet. Well, I guess, we got more people and also more people joining us online. So this is today's topic. So first of all, I got a Naga to talk about Google Kubernetes engine. I don't know, have anybody tried the Google Kubernetes engine? I'm pretty sure Naga will share a little bit more details of why Google GK is the most popular Kubernetes cluster. And the second topic, I got the Boomi to talk about the GKE networking and the security piece. And followed by, I will walk you through how to create a GKE cluster via the automation. Literally just run one command in 5 minutes. We're going to have one GKE cluster ready and also have a sample database deployed. And once you deploy the cluster, you might run in the applications. Make sure you need to back up the container. That's why I want to walk you through a little bit more how to enable the container backups, how to make sure your containers are secure. And then followed by the topic, I also learned here actually from other community. It's about open mic time. You might have some, something to announce. So for myself, I want to announce the next upcoming meetups and also something I just recently I learned or I know there is some meeting, some events could be beneficial to the attendees. And the last one, I leave my friend Chiraga. He's a selfie star to group of photo and then social networking time. Okay, I'm gonna hand it to Naga to cover the first topic, Google Kubernetes engine.
Can you hear me, folks? Can you hear me? Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm Nagarajan. I am a principal architect in Google Cloud. I am part of the Asia Pacific Solutions and Technology team, so which is why you all won't see me often in Singapore. I'm traveling all the way between New Zealand and India, so that's pretty much the area that I cover. In our team, we sit between the global product and engineering teams in the US and in-country customer engineering, solution engineering teams that you may be working with today. So I'll run you through a quick introduction of Google Kubernetes engine. This is a huge topic. So what I'm going to do is touch upon the highlights and hopefully leave you with a lot more questions that you're curious to go figure out yourselves or reach out to me or anybody of us for questions. So with that said, let me get started. So why even bother doing this? And this is an important, right? Most of us in technology are like, Kubernetes is great, let's do it. But why should it matter to business? And that's very important. This is a study by Gartner that says that in 2025, that's roughly over 2 years from now, 95% of all new experiences will be built on cloud native systems. This is huge. What this means from a business perspective is that there is a huge ecosystem investment that's happening with cloud native. And if you are not part of it, you will have to reinvent everything yourself. To give you a different example, I'll probably date myself by saying this. I still miss the BlackBerry phone. It had the best keyboard experience ever. It's a great engineering product, but nobody uses it today. Not because it's a bad product, but nobody's building apps for it. You just have the Apple Store or the Google Store. It's impossible. So if you want it, or if you like Musk, you had $44 billion, you could buy BlackBerry and start building an app store. But otherwise, you have no option but to live with the Play Store or the Apple Store. And that's why this is important. If you're not doing cloud native, with each passing year, you are not able to take advantage of the ecosystem. This is the single biggest reason why this is important, why Kubernetes is important, apart from all the tech and the cool stuff. Now, a lot of you must have used Kubernetes, must be hearing vendors, or you're working with a vendor, and there is a lot of information out there on why people should do cloud native. But if you really boil it down, there are only two reasons that you would do cloud native for. How is it going to change the developer experience? Because developers write business code, and that's how your company drives revenue. And how is it making the life of an operator easy? Because unless the operator is able to offer guardrails, a developer cannot develop with velocity. And these are some of the metrics that you look at. That's a totally different area around DevOps. But the reason why this is important is anybody building a Kubernetes platform needs to understand that whatever they build meets all of these, or at least some of these goals. Otherwise, it's just bloatware. I don't want to take names, but the general idea that I'm seeing with the whole CNCF ecosystem is there is a lot of FUD and there is a lot of focus on role plating services. So whenever you are looking at something new, always ask yourself, how does it change the developer experience in my organization? Or how does it change the operator experience? If it doesn't, it's probably not worth it. So moving on, this is pretty straightforward. So let me pause here and see, just so that I understand how many of you use Kubernetes and support Kubernetes in production today in your organization. Can I have a show of hands? Okay, quite a lot. And how many of you are doing it on a homegrown Kubernetes versus doing it on any cloud or any provider? Any of you using open source Kubernetes and doing it yourself? Okay, cool. So based on this response, I'm assuming most of you are using some kind of managed provider on the cloud or on-prem. So I'll tailor my session accordingly. So Kubernetes is pretty straightforward, default standard now, and that's because of the reasons that you saw earlier. Even organizations that even 3 years ago were talking about maybe Kubernetes is not the right fit for me are looking at Kubernetes very strongly. And it doesn't stop with Kubernetes. The whole cloud native ecosystem that starts with Kubernetes goes all the way to serverless, though we are talking about GKE today. So why does it matter? Why does having a managed Kubernetes matter? And this is true for any managed Kubernetes. There is a reason why there were very few hands that went up when I asked, how many of you are rolling your own Kubernetes? And that's because it's extremely hard. And this is a good example. This is what happens if you're trying to do one control plane across multiple environments in a typical largish enterprise. You have to worry about where it's deployed, and then it talks about infra, containers, your service management, policy. It's spaghetti. Trying to do it across multiple clouds, it gets worse. And this is a reality because all the velocity, all the nice stuff that you have been sold, the Kubernetes dream, just vanishes in the face of the operational overhead this brings. And the reason for using a managed service is to make sure this is not your problem. This doesn't go away, it becomes somebody else's problem. And you can focus on what is the value that you deliver to your users. It may be end users if you're a software vendor, it might be other customers, it might be your internal customer if you're a large enterprise. So some numbers, and these numbers are important, and I'll tell you why. Every technology vendor that I know of has one form of Kubernetes offering or the other. We're all technologists here, and this is a community session, so I am not going to spend a lot of time saying why Google Kubernetes engine is the best out there, but I want to offer some perspective. While a lot of others use containers, they saw the market, they were using some other container platform. When they saw Kubernetes being adopted, they moved over to Kubernetes and started using it as the container platform. With Google, given the history, we are the largest consumers of containers in the world, by far, by a huge number. And that's because of a broad set of our own planetary grade services, or planet scale services, as we like to call them, like search, maps, YouTube, billions of users, they run on containers. So many of the reasons why customers choose GKE, excuse me, is because of the operational know-how. It is important to work with a provider that has an offering of Kubernetes, who has used Kubernetes as a customer and not just sold it as a vendor. And that's important. These are some astounding numbers for two reasons. One, we understand how this works at scale. We do it ourselves, so that knowledge goes back into the product roadmap and the features we build. And the other thing is how it affects day-to-day operations. We do all of this with a very small number of engineers compared to the number of containers that get spun up. High levels of automation backed by site reliability engineering, SRE, that's a whole session by itself, so I'm not going to talk about it. But these are the two main differentiators that inform whatever you're going to see next in terms of technological capability. Capabilities keep changing every 3 or 6 months. I still remember 3-4 years ago, people wouldn't put stateful workloads on Kubernetes. It was said, it's all for stateless. We are not aligned to the 12-factor app development method. Now, over half the Kubernetes growth is coming from stateful workloads simply because of improvements in the container storage interface, CSI, right? So technology keeps changing, but the fundamental design philosophy is, if I have dog-fooded it, if I run billions of containers myself and support products running on containers that serve 1 billion users, I pretty well know how this works in real time in production. And all that learning goes into GKE. And that's why GKE is different. So now I'll quickly jump to the product characteristics. Pretty much 4 areas that you need to look at. Fully managed, which is nothing but, yes, it's still a problem. The spaghetti still exists, but it's no longer your problem. It's Google's problem. The second thing is security. Google is well known for that. we came up with the zero trust concept. There are significant investments. Just a couple of months ago, the largest DDoS attack on the planet happened on one of our customers, and we were able to stop that. Workload optimization, I'll talk that about a bit, where we are able to scale both clusters and nodes. And finally, reliability, which goes into the core of what we do, because like I said earlier, there are many services with 1 billion plus users that run on containers in Google today. So moving on quickly. Okay. Okay, this is not moving. Hi. I'll move. So I'll quickly talk through all the 4 points. Fully managed, it's pretty straightforward. Google has a managed control plane. Google has a managed control plane, which most other cloud providers do it. But what's interesting is, as you will see later, we also offer a managed. Yeah. So we also offer, want to move this up. So sorry about that. So we also offer a managed user plane, not just the control plane. I'll talk about a bit later. We are able to integrate a lot of systems out of the box. One of the reasons why we are able to do it is we have faced challenges ourselves supporting those products with 1 billion plus users in production on Kubernetes. So a lot of that learning goes into our offering, and these are the capabilities we built. Backup and restore is another important feature. CI/CD build is another important feature. The whole point is to ensure that it's a friction-free developer and operator experience, like you saw earlier. If it's not helping developer or operator experience, it's not of real use to your end customers as well. So the next is security. This is pretty straightforward. A lot of hardening that we do. There are container profiles. So if I want to put it in plain English, oops, let's just try. Yeah, just. Yongkang.
Sorry about that.
That's right.
It's like a production. You always expect the unexpected.
Yeah, now works. I don't know why.
Okay.
So meantime, until he pick it out, do you have any
That's
questions
fine.
so far?
Yeah.
It's done. Okay. Just note it down the question.
Yep. Security is pretty straightforward. If I want to talk about in plain English, by the way, I'm trying to optimize for the sake of time. Each of these are interesting points, but in plain English, what this means is we have idiot-proof this as much as possible. And when I say idiot-proof, it's not in a disparaging term. It's just the sheer pressure that operators and developers face when they're supporting workloads. I mean, I've worked with customers where there is a pressure to commit code on an hourly basis, and errors happen. And the number of guardrails that you build into the system so that people don't make inadvertent errors are a lifesaver to customers. And essentially, our security is partly about making sure that nothing insecure happens, and a lot of making sure nothing insecure happens flows from making sure that people are not allowed to make inadvertent mistakes. Right, that's pretty much what our security story is. In terms of workload optimization, I'll talk about this bit later, but Google Kubernetes engine is the only managed Kubernetes offering that offers 4-way auto scaling, right? So we are able to scale both clusters and nodes. Again, I'll cover that a bit later. A lot of significant optimization around FinOps. That is something we want to build in. Many of our customers that experience cloud are used to looking at FinOps after the event. My bills are out of control. Now let me go to my cloud provider and figure out how to reduce it. But we would rather have a real-time insights built into the dashboard so that people are able to see where their spend would end up and proactively ensure that the spend doesn't happen. For some of the workloads, we actually have a cost calculator, not based on the number of CPUs you serve up, but based on the kind of workflow you run from a CI/CD perspective. Reliability is pretty straightforward. The whole OSS Kubernetes, the Kubernetes IO is hosted on Google Cloud. We support it with a lot of credits. And that really allows us to see how Kubernetes works in production at scale ourselves from an external perspective. It's one thing to have our own setup and roll YouTube or maps on top of it. It's quite another to host the whole community and see what are the characteristics in terms of scaling, in terms of performance, in terms of reliability for the whole setup. And this also means a lot of support for user node management, which is traditionally left to customers to manage. We are able to automate and manage that for our customers. So quickly moving on, this is what the typical Kubernetes experience is. You do all these things. This is a nicer view of the spaghetti that we saw earlier. You have to do all of these things if you are running your own Kubernetes. You're doing managed Kubernetes with Google Cloud and possibly with many other clouds at various levels. You can only focus on worker node provisioning and security and network configuration. Rest of it is taken care of by the cloud provider. But what happens with Google Cloud is we also offer a default Kubernetes mode, what we call the easy mode, which is called autopilot. So what we do with autopilot is we also manage the worker nodes and the security and provisioning, which is a big differentiator. This allows you to start consuming Kubernetes even if you don't have the critical mass of skills, or more importantly, if you're a scale-up. If you are a scale-up, your business is doing well. One of the challenges always has been my business is growing faster than I can hire people, especially for operations. And being able to take advantage of this capability is one of the reasons we are seeing significant growth in the platform. We are seeing GKE Autopilot being consumed at a much higher rate than standard GKE, simply because it reduces the steep learning curve and the adoption curve that goes with operating Kubernetes at scale. So what happens here is we do a lot of work that you would do in operations teams. So think of Google as your SRE to deliver this, which happens in the control plane case by default, but it also happens in the case of user nodes now. It's still Kubernetes, it's still GKE, but essentially all that you're worried about is application runtimes. This is how it looks like. So the only difference that happens is that you will still continue to own the application platform. It's your code base, you know your business best, but anything underneath that is managed by GKE Autopilot. So essentially you get the operational flexibility of running serverless without the compromise that you would make on serverless by having to run stateful workloads, stateless workloads. So that is the other differentiator of GKE. This is very important. We have the ability to do multi-region deployment, which most of the other cloud providers do. What's important is for us, multi-cluster management is built into the platform. You don't pay separately for multi-cluster management with Google Cloud because of this capability being native to it and not part of some new feature that you have to buy or enable in the system. This also has other downstream implications on how you're able to automatically upgrade clusters, choose which clusters to align based on the regions that you're doing. For example, you can choose a certain update cycle for your production environments versus staging versus dev and test. So the amount of automation it goes back to my earlier point. Everybody has Kubernetes. The differentiator in GK is we know how it works in production at scale. So we have automated away a lot of the headaches so that it's easier for the operator and developer to consume Kubernetes. Right? So this is just what I said earlier in terms of automated upgrades, being able to comply with the node version, being able to comply with the control plane version, making a choice. If you're running something very critical, you don't want to upgrade often, you can make that decision. You're not dependent on the cloud provider making that call for you. It's as simple as this, choosing which channel you want, you drop down and you're done. Of course, you can do this via API, but the visualization looks better. Now this comes to auto provisioning, which kind of is the last part that I wanted to cover before I wrap up. What typically people think of when they talk about auto provisioning is horizontal auto scaling. How do you scale pods, right? What we have done with Google Cloud is also think through what needs to happen if you want to scale vertically and do it in as least disruptive model as possible. Because at the end of the day, vertical auto scaling means that you will have to figure out how you move the workload, because the underlying node would have to restart. That's a computer science problem. You can't vertically scale. That's why you don't see SAP running on containers. But what happens is that we have horizontal pod auto scaling and vertical pod auto scaling, where we scale the pods, but we also scale the nodes, right? So essentially you have two types of auto scaling. One where you scale your workload, which means you're doing it at a pod level, and the other where you do it at a cluster level. So essentially you can mix and match 4 types of auto scaling to ensure that you have optimal utilization of whatever investment you're making. But more importantly, the operational load is significantly less. It's a difference between having one on-call engineer just doing capacity management 24/7 versus setting a set of rules and letting it take care of itself. Right. So this is a differentiation. As part of this, one thing I did want to point out is GKE is the only managed Kubernetes offering that is tested to support 15,000 plus nodes on a cluster. And we have done this for a few customers. It is significant performance testing and load balancing, because it's not just about compute. You have to figure out what happens to the scheduler, what happens to HCD. It is not as simple as it sounds, but the point is that we were able to do it because we have done it for our own workload. So when the e-commerce customers from the US came to us and said, we want to do this for a Black Friday, we were very happy to do this for them, and it worked. Okay, so this kind of talks about what the previous slide is. It's pretty straightforward. One thing I want to point out here is it is fully automatic. You set the rules. It's one thing is to have the capability. The other thing is to expect you as the consumer to come open the console and do this, or set up an API to do this. We want the experience to be as seamless as possible, which is why it is auto scale. It is automatic. You can do it in a rule-based fashion, and it is integrated with auto scaling, right? So your auto scaling can trigger your auto provisioning of your nodes. These are the usual partner stuff that people are interested in sometimes. So this is a Forrester study on why Google Cloud is a leader. It's the only leader at this point for cloud providers that are available globally. And then this is a Gartner scorecard. If you work in organizations where your bosses are interested in Gartner kind of stuff, it's always good to share. And this is important because a lot of the work that we do is validated by analysts simply because of the user feedback that goes in from what we have developed. So it's our users talking to analysts and getting us these scores versus us going and talking to analysts about how great GK is. So this pretty much covers my session. I kind of rushed through the last few slides. I wanted to pause here and see if there are any questions you wanted to ask. Of course, you can reach out to me separately as well, but publicly, if you want to ask any questions, please go ahead. Yeah.
One more.
Guys, any question? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Basically, a question with the GK autopilot being also kind of automated and almost transparent for users. What's the difference to, let's say, with a cloud run and more abstracted services?
Very good question. So if you still want to run stateful stuff, you would prefer to put it on autopilot because you can attach, there is nothing that stops you from attaching persistent disks or running slightly highly performant workloads with a lot of database information on autopilot. Autopilot is just about taking away the overhead of managing worker nodes. You can still run applications that are stateful on autopilot. Whereas when you're looking at a cloud run like capability, there's nothing that stops you. I mean, I know somebody who runs a database on serverless. It's a free world. But the point is, would you run production workloads on it? How it will scale? Whether it is fit for purpose? I guess that's a story. So what I wanted to draw a line on is it's a continuum. You will be able to find somebody running a database on serverless. That doesn't stop. You will find somebody running stateless containers on autopilot rather than cloud run because the application is designed that way, and making it completely serverless means a lot of application code changes with developers might not be ready to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned couple of billions of workloads in a week, right? Do you have any breakdown of like how much is the analytical workloads and how much is the online workloads? Because recently the big data, all the workloads are moving to containers, they're not just limited to the traditional stack. Maybe if you have some numbers.
Yeah, it's difficult to predict simply because we are talking about all our billion plus user products, right? You're talking about YouTube, you're talking about mail, you're talking about search, maps. So sometimes you get a lot of unstructured data. Sometimes you get streaming data, right? You wouldn't notice a millisecond response in a search, but you would definitely note jitter on a YouTube video, right? So it's very difficult to draw that line. But what I can talk about is our customers, right? So what the number I showed you was more in terms of our own consumption. But if you talk about our customers, historically, it has been strongly towards web workloads. Kubernetes has a lot of affinity to web scale workloads. For analytical workloads, it is a choice between whether you want to get a complete experience of running on a managed service. So you would go to something like Google Cloud BigQuery. So you're not even worried about managing the platform. Sometimes you want to manage a platform and run it on Kubernetes. A typical example in that is Kubeflow, right? So if you want to run ML pipelines on Kubernetes, we have customers running huge setup of Kubeflow on GKE, plus consuming our managed pipeline services as well, the Vertex family. So that is gradually increasing. Right now, if you really ask me, I would say it is closer to 70-30. But the thing is, it was 90-10 just 2 years ago.
It creates a lot of containers on vertical workloads.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
I think.
Yeah, I have one question.
You sort of addressed this already, but I wanted to know what percentage of the market is moving towards kind of serverless adoption with something like Cloud Run versus GKE?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Let me try answering it as simply as I can. If I were starting a company today and building something in-house, not dependent on a vendor, not dependent on somebody else, I would start with serverless as my default, right? There are again exceptions. Pareto principle applies. If I'm building a payments platform, I need high levels of consistency. I don't want somebody to be paid twice. So obviously I would rather make it more stateful, put it on containers, right? So there is a trade-off in terms of industry, whether I depend on an ISP vendor who's developing software, which is not yet rewritten for serverless. I have to stick with whatever that person is offering, even if it might be VMs, right? So, but if you look at a secular long-term trend, anything that can go on serverless will end up going on serverless. It's just too convenient not to do it.
Any question? Any other question?
Hi, I think we have some questions from the Zoom.
Actually, let's probably
Yeah.
give to people from Zoom.
Oh, sorry. Please go ahead.
Is that question asked in the chat window?
Yeah, Akhil this side. So basically, I have one question. Like, can we have a database not on GKE, like on the backend and front end?
We are unable to hear you. Kindly share your questions in the chat. Maybe we can answer a little later also. Okay, right?
Okay, I did.
Yeah, sure.
Would like to know who are all the major vendors on GKE?
Vendors of?
Vendors mean customers, like who are they running their show? Means their product catalog on GKE.
You mean customers of GKE,
Yes.
Google Cloud? There are significant. I can share a link with you. There are hundreds of customers. Public references are like Walmart is a huge customer. Then a lot of customers in this region. Gojek is one of our biggest customers. So yeah. But I can share a link where we have a whole list of references around our existing customers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one question. Yeah, one question. How to learn GKE?
By doing stuff. So one of the interesting things is if you go to Coursera, there is significant education material. We usually offer a huge amount of discounts. Some cases it's free as well. There are quick labs. There are multiple ways of learning GKE without having to spend money. But from my personal experience, learning happens when you do stuff, right? Build something, right? The real the real differentiator comes when, or rather real learning happens when you build something yourself. I mean, my first thing I built on Project about 5 years ago was a very crappy photo that I had. Not even my family. But the point is, I built something. I uploaded photos. I managed to threaten a few of my family members to upload 20 photos. It worked. So I figured out how Kubernetes scales. While there is a lot of education material, all architecture is about trade-off, and you understand trade-off instinctively when you do so.
True. That's a good answer.
Okay, so I want to end with a final question. Now that you have heard me speak for 15 minutes, I guess. Thank you. The question I have is that of whatever I spoke, what is your single biggest takeaway on GKE? Just put your hands up. I'm going to just randomly select one person, and that person has to answer.
And then will be a cool giveaway.
Yeah, there are giveaways, so you'll have to put your hand up. No, I'm not going to. Come on, folks. Didn't you have food? Okay. So yeah, let's do with this gentleman.
50,000 nodes, right?
15,000. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the
biggest takeaway. You think your business would scale to that point?
No, I don't think
So,
that's very massive.
yeah. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I can answer.
Okay, thank you, Nagarajan, for this awesome session. Again, my story is same. Last time I was learning about Kubernetes scheduler. Now I got to know. Now this week maybe I will start with XCD, but after hearing this session, my understanding is it is also managed. So let's forward about XCD and proceed further. So again, this is great to see you everyone. And next session will be around security. Security is always there regardless of any scale of workload or any kind of customer. And we have Boomi who is going to deliver this talk. Welcome, Boomi. Thank you. Thank you. So I think most of you guys already know me. My session is more kind of interactive. I know you guys put it trial. Maybe I could quickly introduce myself. I'm Boomi. I currently work in Cisco as a regional cloud architect. I help Cisco solutions on multi-cloud. Google Cloud is one of my key priority. That's the reason I'm here today. I'm going to talk about cloud native security. That's the whole purpose. So apart from that, this is my LinkedIn. Maybe if you want, you can get connected with me. So before I start the topic, how many of you comes from security background? Can you just check that? So only one.
We are not able to hear the voice.
It is a good and bad, right? Like only one, so we can create more awareness and all good, right? Logistics side.
I think if you can move closer to the mic.
This is the agenda. So first,
It still sounds really far away.
understanding the cloud native applications, the risks.
Not able to hear.
Second one is more towards security frameworks. Because the framework is very important, right? Before you start anything, if you have a base framework, it is easy for you to get analyzed. Then the actual solution, then followed by demo. Okay, these are the quick things.
Where's your Zoom? Sorry, man.
Okay.
Where's your Zoom? Did you share the screen? No, it wasn't.
It's not enable.
Desktop.
It's not allowing me.
It's the security.
Yeah, this is a Cisco laptop. It's okay.
We're not able to hear and we cannot see anything.
It's not shared. It seems. Okay, I'm going to ask this question before I start the session. Just share your answer. Have like a good microservice based architecture. Is it increases or decreases or no impacts on the attack surface? No impact, okay. I don't want to hear from you because you are already security expert. Other than the security guys. Perfect. You made my session very clear because the community is all about giving and taking away, right? You guys already know it increases things. So this is another question. What do you think about this? You're right. It's very good answer. Yeah. Apart from that, okay. Good that like everybody is awake because Chirag told me people are trying to sleep. So try to make something.
Are you able to hear me? We are not able to see anything.
So much. Thank you. So you guys are right. Actually, it's a microservice dependency graph cloud native of one of the backend applications.
Please inform
Like a dependency
the
graph.
presenter.
I can see also.
Application goes from
I see
one service to another service, one service to external.
Are you able to see anything?
So
You
what
able
is
to hear
the
me?
takeaway from this graph? Exactly. Complex. Microservices solves a lot of problems.
Can
It creates a lot of challenges in the operations. Developer is there, operations are there, and security are there. That's the reason now the DevSecOps comes into the picture. Okay. So this is like after Gartner. Gartner mentioned there are like 11 key places the attack surface comes from, particularly in the container lifecycle. So again, I'm going to ask a question. So which place you see major attacks happening in your production environment? I don't want a general guess from your own experience. Maybe your production team may say that, or your development team may
is
say
this
that.
session was not for online? Is it
This
for
is
only
from
for
Gartner. Just tell me the number, 1 or 2. What is the number? Okay, 11 is the last one, right? Application layer attack. What is that? Number 4. It's image registry. Why number 4? Perfect. Yeah. What other answers? Number 9, inter-process communication. Why? A part of all is it's open, right? In Kubernetes. That's a good answer. What is? Number 6, host container relationship, because we are installing the Docker and whatever is the container and either virtualize the environment or bare metal. If that is not patched properly, again it's a security issue. That's the reason patching is important. What other answers? 5, 8, 3. Okay. 5 is unsecured orchestration platform. A great session by Nagarajan. He told like why GK can be more secure. I think it answered the question.
5, 6, 8. Host container relationship, of course. 8 is microservices architecture communication and network segregation. The same thing. What else? Yeah, database. Because if you remember, like a decade ago, right, you may be using only one database. But if you see any application, you will be having minimum of 3 different databases. Do you agree or not? So we have like a database in web layer also, app layer also, and database layer also. In database layer, we have like multiple databases. Okay. Yeah, what else answer? Number 1 and 2 also. Correct. Okay. Number 1 and 2. Why? You are using your laptop. Consider your laptop is you are using some other reason for your laptop. So what is the answers? Or what does it mean? All the things. And all places are equally important. So all 11 are equally important. And I think I don't want to repeat. You guys already told where and all you can get the error, right? Like you can get the attack surface. So any questions on this one? Like which do you want to understand more?
Yeah, feel free to ask a question. In the meantime, let me fix the screen sharing problems. Yeah, we do need our online attendees also able to see the screen.
Okay, the next question is, dash in the Kubernetes environment are the leading cause of vulnerabilities that increases security risk and in some cases lead to breaches. So this answer, don't say anything, just raise your hand because we are going to have a good answer. We'll get like a gift. So Chirag, maybe you can recommend. I did not.
Not.
Yeah, who the good answer, they're going to get the gift. And you need to explain why.
It's about the misconfigurations during the deployment. So if APIs are exposed from the containers to the public, then you can see that Tesla, how it got.
Could you please fix this issue?
Okay, so I'll answer the question later. Go to the next question.
Hey, Boomi. Yeah, technically we can share the screen, but just need your fingerprint.
This is the Cisco laptop. See, you can how much it's secured. Okay. All good.
Please share the screen as well. Yeah, we can see now. But no voice, no voice.
Lawrence would okay. The why misconfiguration, right? May you know your name? Navid correctly mentioned, right? The Tesla is one of the recent latest example of Infinity is one of the latest example. All good?
Yeah, it should be all good. Where is the swap screen?
Are you able to move closer to the microphone? Thank you.
Maybe next time you need to use Cisco windows. Okay. So why? Because the latest incident shows misconfiguration leads to things. One, it opens up the network. Okay. Second one, it also exposes your application. The vulnerabilities will automatically come, right? That's the reason. But other three are equally important. So that's the reason I feel that you are one of the smartest. Okay. So again, what is this? Except the security layer. Security assessment one. I need to unmute yourself. You are saying correct answers all the time. So this is the MITRE attack framework. As I told in my agenda, the second one I come now. So previously you understand what are the cloud native risks. So this is more about framework, how we can mitigate the risk. Where the risk is there. Consider in the room, right? Maybe 100 people are there. One people may say that it's a cloud security issue. Other people also may say the same language, cloud security issue. But we need to know where exactly and how it is happening. That's the reason MITRE prepared this framework. It's more towards thinking from the cybersecurity attack person point of view. How it can attack in all the levels. So it starts from initial access and end towards impact. So impact is the last stage where you see the endpoint denial of service or network denial of service or resource hijack. And this framework keeps on updating. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about the solution. Again, you guys already answered. It's a MITRE attack. So this is the solution I'm going to talk. It is the solution called Penartica. It addresses exactly as per the MITRE attack framework. So it helps where the container, particularly container and serverless or API, where the issue is there. So it can help to do reduce the security gaps. Okay. So and this is the free for developers for 15 nodes and 1 cluster. And this is the link. In case if you don't, if you need, maybe you can reach out to me later also. Any questions now? Okay. I think most of the guys are ready. So Penartica, what it does, right? It's a secure application cloud for cloud application. What it does is it detects and prevents risks in the cloud, more towards containers, serverless, and applications. So it focuses on 3 key verticals: microservices connectivity, microservices security, and microservices observability. It integrates with service mesh. That's the reason our topic all about unlocking cloud native security and network. So this is the, I'm going to do the demo. So these are like the 3 key use cases: cloud workload protection, visibility, and compliance. Now let's get directly to the demo. Before demo, do you have any questions? Okay. So it's a SaaS application and it builds on cloud native architecture. I see some of the questions here. Maybe you guys can raise hand before I start doing the demo. No questions. Yeah, please.
this software, it support all clouds or?
Yeah, it's hybrid cloud. It supports container at any time. It could be GKE or AWS, Azure, or on-premises also.
Can we use it for dedicated servers?
So, come on.
Can we use it for dedicated clusters?
Yeah, until unless you are using container, that could be anywhere. Yeah, just use mainstream Kubernetes. Okay, now let's get started to the demo. There are like 5 steps. So if you have the cluster, right, you just need to install the Antarctica controller. It's kind of like a YAML file, and it runs on a single port in each cluster. So how you can generate this, I did not have in my demo, but I can tell you. And in my current demo, it runs on Google container, that is GKE. Okay. I'm going to show the demo now. So before I show the GKE, so these are the sections. The first one is you need to deploy the Panoptica controller on Kubernetes cluster. And while you deploy the Panoptica controller, right, you can deploy Istio also. For example, if you don't have, or if you already have the Istio, you can integrate the Istio also. So you can provide like an integrated view. I'll show that in a minute. So step 2 is you need to create an environment because it cannot be directly applied on the cluster. So that's the reason you need an environment. And then you can view your environment while doing the environment view, right? You can see the container runtime, what are the threads there, end-to-end vulnerability, everything. Okay. So the fourth one is you can have like an end-to-end navigator in terms of network security and observability. I'm going to show that now. This is the last step. This is where like you can create and apply the policies between pods or like on the deployments or like container to the external services, even like if you're using serverless or API, everything you can do that. Okay. So now these are the like a simple 5 steps and you can get started at any time. Now let me show you whatever. So this is like a Mitre attack framework, whatever you guys see, like initial access, you can see where the thread is there. For example, if I see this is the vulnerable workload, it can tell, it can show you why, what is the threat and what is the pod involved, it's Nginx, and how I can mitigate that. It's not only providing the recommendation, also it helps to repair also. It's not only the initial access, right? For example, during the data impact also, you can see that. Like what is the data malicious, everything you can see that. Even like a deploy container, all the levels. So it's exactly mapped with a Mitre attack framework. Okay. Now let's see the detailed view also. So this shows like what are the high risk, and this is like where are the what is the pod. You can provide detailed one. It's more towards like a role-based access control and everything. Pods, APIs, serverless. You can see all together. So now let's see into the navigator. This is the real power, like and it's agentless. It's agentless, and it's not required any daemon set or anything. It's just like only one container pod as equal to what your container like a cluster environment is running. Okay. So before I show that, maybe I'll show this first. Just click anything. This is the most critical. I can click expand. So see all the service mesh, whatever the graph you are seeing. With that, like what is the thread? This is the thread. It's accessing the front end. If I click that, this application, it says risk high, highest vulnerability. Okay. And also what is the host? What is the pod status? And what is the application name? What is the environment info? And if you wanted to apply that like any policy, you can apply it on top of that also. Okay. So now let's see the another one maybe. This is one of the API gateway. Again, this is also another high risk. So this provides like legend, what is the high critical, high, medium, low, and unknown. Okay. So you can integrate with your CI/CD in all the way. Also, this supports with serverless, APIs, and everything. And as I told, this runs on Google Kubernetes engine. Okay. The same way it can run on any container engine. This is the policies which you can create the policy and apply. An example, this is the latest policy which I applied because previously it was like a security high risk, right? That's reason like one click we can apply the policy. And this is the risk assessment. You can see with each cluster. So this is like a finance cluster. You can see like the namespace and or back also you can see if anything is exposed or anything. Now again, I'll come back to the navigator view to provide like another things. So this, if you see this talk shop application is isolated. So like that, like this is connected to external. If you wanted to see what are the things there in the external connected, you can see. And you can like drill down also by like in individual pod, or you can apply any risk also on top of that. This is like a Kubernetes control which version is running, and you can add any cluster here. Since it's a read-only mode, I can add the new cluster. But if you have like a running on the Kubernetes, just click the new cluster and select what container workload you need to do that, like what container workload engine. You just simply click it next. One second. This is complete. So it will generate a YAML file. So on the YAML file, you will bring the form. Yeah, I just showed you. Maybe I can provide you another demo. Okay. So how long we have?
Can you repeat the question?
No, he wants to see the navigator.
Wait, actually, you 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, I love to provide you another demo also. That's the reason. For example, this is the high risk. It tells like which label and which images, what is the vulnerability and what is the host and what is the pod status. And this is the deployment policy in case if I wanted to mitigate that. Okay, that's part like you need to go to the data. This is like you provide the observability, and you can provide the policies here to mitigate the observability, to mitigate the security issues. If you wanted to see exactly where is the problem as per the Meetup attack framework, this is where you need to go. For example, this is the container. So you can see what is the problem. This is the pod. Its malicious users were detected and how to mitigate. Like use the cluster events policy to block running executables in pods. This is just one of the example. So I'll allow to provide you more things. I love the question. That's a good question. Apart from that, any questions? Because I have like only 5 minutes. 1 second. Yongkang, how long I have?
Yeah, let's try to finish.
How long? 5 minutes, right? 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably 3 minutes.
Maybe like 3 questions I take within 5 minutes.
You only have 3.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So whatever the demo, I'll show you later.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, my question is, how will this?
We are not able to hear any voice. Luisa?
Command security trusted advisor, and Azure has Microsoft different. So how this differentiates from the native cloud security solutions, and why would someone go with Panoptic?
Yeah, so please inform him that. Otherwise, we are not able to connect the dots, right?
All about every vendor provides one solution. Since you asked about AWS Trusted Advisor, so Trusted Advisor solves on the infrastructure level. It's more towards providing the remediations, okay, and not in terms of serverless or API, or not towards multi-vendor. That is the one answer. Any other question? I'll take 2 more questions because they are running out of time. Okay, perfect. All good. Thank you so much for your patience. And the last question, maybe I'll ask the question, the final takeaway. The same question we are going to ask. Should I update the question? Sorry about that. Because I asked the question earlier itself. Okay. What is the difference between NIST framework and maybe like a military attack framework? in your point of view? Anyways. You are running in the way. That's what I try to answer. Simple way. That's correct actually. So you want to ask me?
So I just want to attempt this answer. So
Okay.
an IST is basically a framework, framework which says a certain guideline is provided on how to do. However, the meta attack is execution phase, wherein it gives you certain steps at what level, what kind of vulnerability you can expect and how to overcome it. So that's the basic difference between both of them.
Yeah, that is also partially correct. Yes, but NIST also solve the same problem. The biggest difference is this cyber attack. It's more kind of now lot of cloud native adapters. They started using that. That's the exact one. Yeah. NIST is more towards enterprises, more towards like a big companies. That's right. But when you started doing that, you want to know what is the right framework to get started on serverless or container. That's why like which
Meta attack is best for.
that's correct. I did not say this. It's easy to get started. Okay, thank you guys. I'll pass on to Yongkang. Thank you, team.
Hope like everybody enjoyed the session. Yes. Awesome session again, and security is not a technology. So yeah, thank you. So with that, we are moving to the next session. We covered security, we covered managed Kubernetes, but something always missing if we don't talk about what is the DR strategy. And in the context of GKE, today Yongkang is going to talk about that topic, that how to take the backup of GKE container. Welcome, Yongkang. Over to you.
Thanks, Chirag. Are we all excited about the GKE? Definitely, it's one of the best Kubernetes distributions. I'm also, very much love Google Cloud. You can see I'm 5 times Google Cloud certified. I also love Kubernetes. That's why I just did, the last one. So I'm now fully Kubernetes certified. So let's continue. So I try to give everybody, a chance to play around. Have you guys signed up, Google Cloud trial account, or you already have the access? That would be a lot easier. So let's get started. So why the containers also need a backup? So I'm not going to talk too much here. So the idea is your container also can be break, can be, somebody attack, or maybe accident, deletion, etc. Or maybe you want to move from on-premise to the cloud, or maybe you want to move from other cloud to GKE. So that's why you need the specialized tool. So what are the tools available? Google actually really did a very good job. Google Cloud is the only cloud provided the native backup tool. Did you guys know? Only Google Cloud have the native backup tool. That's the first one I put here, backup for GKE. They just made a GA, I believe it's not a long time ago. So that's the first party Kubernetes native backup tool. And we also have some other tools like Avalaru or, Carsten and Portworx. So Cloud Casa. Everybody talking about they are number one. But have you guys tried any one of these? So today I will talk about the Cloud Casa actually. So that's something I just learned last week. So they talk about their best Kubernetes backup as a service tool, which is different than the rest of the tools here. So the reason is, think about it this way. So today, a lot of customers, when they choose Kubernetes, they typically don't want to manage by themselves because the complexity, you don't want to self-tune your cluster. That's why they go to GKE, manage Kubernetes. Makes life a lot easier. But when it comes to backup, the container backups, do you really want to manage the backup by yourself? Most likely you don't want to manage by yourself either. So that's why I tested this tool last week. I feel like we should, I should have a session to share how this tool can help you simplify the life when it comes to Kubernetes backup, DR, or application mobility. Literally, it's a managed backup. It's a software as a service offerings. That means you don't have to manage the backup control plane by yourself. Similar like you want to manage the Kubernetes. Same thing for the backup, manage the backup. Okay, if you never hold of this company, there is a third party called GitHub. They have the radar report for the Kubernetes data protection. On the left-hand side, that's the year 2020. Cloud Casa wasn't even in the picture yet. But on the right-hand side, you might notice here. Cloud Casa actually it's one of the fast mover. It come to the picture, become one of the leader. So that's why I want to share with you guys more about Cloud Casa. So what problems does Cloud Casa address here? Left-hand side, Kubernetes benefits, strengths. There are a lot of benefits. That's why customer moving to Kubernetes. It's huge adoption. But there are some problems from the Kubernetes side or weakness. On the right-hand side, you can see Kubernetes itself doesn't do backup very well, doesn't do DR very well, doesn't do security, doesn't do cloud mobility very well. So that's the company Cloud Casa actually does provide a lot of the benefits here to simplify the life. So let's have a look. The Kubernetes data protection as a service. So how it works? You might have all different Kubernetes clusters. So Google, obviously, it's one of the most popular one, but you might also have on-premise, any one of the Kubernetes certified Kubernetes distributions. You might use running on-premise or running from the cloud. You might use all different CSI driver for the storage. But the idea here is from a Cloud Casa, you don't have to manage the backup control plane. The way it is, they have their own cloud, to manage the control plane. So literally, when it comes to the backup, you just connect your cluster to the cloud. And then you can start to configure the backup to run the policy to do the backup. What about the storage? You don't have to manage your storage either. If you choose to, they also provide the manage the storage. So when it comes to the Kubernetes backup, you don't have to manage your control plane. You don't have to manage your storage. I personally love this idea. So that's the way to go for the future. So today, maybe some customers don't even think about the backup. When they initially think about the backup, they think about let's install some backup software to my Kubernetes cluster. That becomes you need to manage it. You need to do the patching, do the upgrade, and you need to make sure you can be skilled. And not to mention it, use your Kubernetes resource, right? Why not let someone else to help you to manage the whole control of the backup? So that's where Cloud Casa was here to help you to manage your backup control plane, to manage your storage. But if you choose to, you can also bring your own storage. Could be any one of the S3 or object storage listed here. And not to mention, you do have the object lock or safe lock feature to allow you to have the backup immutability or avoid a ransomware attack. And for customer running from the cloud, did you guys notice here? You can use the private link or private endpoint. That means your data to the backup does not transfer from the internet at all. Okay, that's why I tested last week. I'm so excited about these offerings. Let's focusing on a little bit more about the GKE. So talk about the GKE, they talk about this is the most advanced solution for a GKE. So on the left-hand side, you can see I got the GKE cluster here. I got my control nodes, my worker nodes, etcd, persistent volumes, etc. So you don't have anything, your backup software, you're not installed to your GKE cluster. You only need a lightweight the backup agent installed to the cluster. So your control plane, it's from our Cloud Casa. It's running in the cloud. So how to back them up? They talk to the Google Cloud via the API server to discover all of your resources. So literally, you just, I love the idea. Instead of to configure the individual cluster, do the backup, since I can access to the cloud, I just add my cloud account. So for this case, I use Google Cloud. I just connect to my Google Cloud account, then discover all of my Kubernetes cluster, my GK cluster. Then you can apply the policy to do the backup. And not to mention, there is another cool stuff, which I personally love it. They also have the security scan built in. So when you talk about the data protection or backup, the security is always together. You need to make sure your cloud is secure, make sure your Kubernetes cluster is secure. They actually also have the built-in security scan. So when it comes to the backup, it basically back up your everything supporting your application. Your metadata, your etcd, your application namespace, your CSI based PVC snapshot, literally capture everything, and then also send another copy to the object storage. Could be bring your own object storage or the managed object storage from Cloud Casa. The beauty, the best part, which I love it so much, is when it comes to recovery. So a lot of the tools right now, when it comes to recover, for example, I want to spin up I have to have the cluster ready before I can do the recover. So what they can do is actually when it comes to recover, even you don't have a cluster, you can select the create a new cluster. Could be just for the verification, for the validation. You want a part of your restore, I want to spin up a new GK cluster and then do the install of the agent automatically, then do the restore of my application. That's really cool. I love it. And not to mention, everybody can do the granular restore. I mean, for the Kubernetes backup tool, everybody can do granular restore, like an individual resource recovery or the full namespace recovery, or you just want to clone to a new namespace, etc. But not everyone. So far, I only know Cloud Casa can do the VMA to cluster recovery. That means part of your restore, you can restore to a new cluster. Okay, I'm talking too much here. I really want everybody to have some chance to play around to see how it works. So this is I put together. As long as everybody already have the Google Cloud access, it's pretty simple. You just clone the repository, and then you run the one command GKE deploy. We will deploy GKE cluster. So you only need like 5 minutes to create a GKE cluster. So let me walk you through it. So if you guys have your laptops ready, let's walk it together, okay? Actually, I don't know how this works. Yeah, let me switch to a different window here. Actually, where is my mouse? No, this way. Yeah, well, why I'm fixing, looks like my screen. Where is my screen? Okay, I'm already here. Give me 1 second. I want to make the mirror mode, otherwise I can't see. Okay. Yeah, if you log into your Google Cloud, I want to you guys, if you guys can follow me around, you just log into the Google Cloud, assuming you should already have the billing account configured. So without the billing account configured, you don't need your bank account details. Otherwise, you won't be able to launch the GKE cluster. Once you have these ready, actually, all you need to do is you just do a git clone. I showed you earlier. You just do the git clone here, clone the repository, and then you run the following command. We will spin up a GKE cluster. So let me cancel this one. And I will come back to this window. Where is my cloud shell? Oh, not here. Okay, it's here. So basically, you just change it to the directory. I got the directory here. I already cloned the repository. Once you clone the repository, you should have a folder called GKE-Casa. And from here, you just run the command GKE-deploy. So can you guys see? Let me make the bigger. Yeah, better. Okay, that's the one command. I created the automation. I show you the automation, GitHub repository shortly. So I just run this command. Typically about 5 minutes, we're going to have a GKE cluster ready. And then we can, I will show you how to enable the container backups. Okay. So you don't need to have a cluster ready before you can try something else, right? So let's have the cluster ready. So while we're waiting, it does take like about 5 minutes, sometimes 5.5 minutes, or maybe 6. Once we have the cluster ready, while we're building the cluster, you can actually, if you want to, you can open another tab here. Yeah, this step, it does take about 5 minutes. Yeah, looks like my mouse got some issues. Let me open another one. So while the command is running, actually, if you go to the Google Cloud console, you should be able to, the cluster is creating. It does take about 5 minutes. While we're waiting here, is there any questions here? So if I go to Kubernetes engine, you can see the cluster is creating. So for the testing purpose, I'm not going to create like a 10 nodes or 5 nodes. I just create 1 node. And I do have the auto scaling to scale to 3 nodes if we need it. So when I try to do the restore, actually, it will auto scale to 2 nodes because it does require some additional resource. Okay. So while we're waiting here, let me show you the GitHub page. If you go to the GitHub page, you can see I do create multiple, GitHub repository to automate GKE cluster, automate other cloud Kubernetes cluster as well. And also have the enable of the container backups. Typically just need about 3 minutes, you can enable the container backups. So the one which I'm talking about here is the GKE-Casa. So if you click the link here, you will see it's a pretty simple, the instructions. First of all, you need to create a Google Cloud trial account if you don't have one. And then you open up a Cloud shell and you clone the repository, and then you just run the GKE-deploy. That's the command I just run right now. And shortly, you will see the cluster up running. And then I can walk you through the next step. Okay. Is there any questions? I think everybody is very good from Google Cloud. And if you want to create it from the web console, obviously you can create the GKE cluster from the web console. You do have some, but it's not as easy as my one command. I do love the one command for the testing. Once I finish, I just destroy. There is another command, the GKE destroy. So once you finish your testing, you just run the one command to destroy the whole environment you created. So in the meantime, let me log into the Cloud Casa web console. Yeah, the same thing. If you don't have an account yet, pretty simple. This time, Cloud Casa actually makes life a lot easier. They don't ask you anything, payment details. They don't ask you credit card or anything. You just click sign up. You provide your email address, your name, that's it. And then you can log into the web console. And you also have the forever free version you can try. So let me log into the web console here. So this is a Cloud Casa's very simple, easy to use web console. So the moment you log in, you can see the very easy, simple to use dashboard here. So what about my job status for the last 24 hours? And you can change it to last 7 days or 30 days. And how many cloud I connected. I only, right now, for the cloud account, I mentioned earlier, for the cloud account, if you add the cloud account like a Google, AWS or Azure, it will automatically discover your clusters. So that means I have dozens, hundreds cluster. You don't have to install the software individually. You don't have to, to configure them individually. I will just talk to your cloud account to discover all of your clusters. Okay. And I do have two accounts added here. One is Google, one is AWS. And my clusters, let me show you here. Actually, so from the configurations, you do have the options to select the cloud account. That's where we connect to the cloud. Right now, they only support the top three public cloud. So if I want to add a cloud account, you just click add a cloud. So you go to the three options. So right now we are talking about the Google Cloud. Let me choose the Google Cloud here. And you just click next. It makes life a lot easier. You just click the open in Google Cloud Shell. It will launch the Google Cloud Shell and then walk you through step by step how to complete the configuration of the cloud account. Okay, why before I click this, let me verify if my cluster is ready. Looks like it wasn't ready yet. So let me come back to the slide just to show you. So once my cluster ready, the first step we need to do is sign up a trial account. I already showed you how to sign up a trial account. And then you add the cloud account for the auto discovery of your Kubernetes cluster. And then you can configure a policy. The policy, what it asks is how often you want to schedule the job and how long you want to keep. And next is to define a backup. That defines what you need to back up, how you want to back them up, and which policy you want to use. Okay. Any question? Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Let me give you a mic.
I think in one of the slides you mentioned about the ability to back up private clusters as well.
Yes.
But looking at
yeah, you don't see the option, right? Yeah, I will show you shortly. Yeah, let me show you now, actually.
Great. And then the add-on question on top of that is how does it work with air-gap installations where you don't have outbound internet connectivity?
Yep. Okay, let me answer your first question first. Let me move this around. So from here, let me cancel this one first. Okay.
Any questions?
Hold on, let me answer the question first. Okay. So from the cluster here, actually on the left-hand side, let me make the bigger. Can we make it bigger? Yeah, too big. If I click the clusters, I don't see any cluster here. So if I want to add some cluster, which is not from the top 3 public clouds, I just click add, and then you just give a name. And once you give a name, let me actually give you an example. Let's say my Kubernetes 1. And there is an option here. Do you want to use the managed storage or your own storage? And you can use the private container registry as well. That's what you talk about, the offline air gap stuff, because you don't want your stuff to go from the internet. The other thing is, I mentioned earlier, if you're running in the cloud, you can use the private link or private endpoint to avoid your traffic travels from the internet. Okay, that's where we define the cluster. It could be running any other on-premises, cluster. Could be Ansel's, GK on-premises also can be supported. Does that answer your question? Yeah, good. So let me see if the cluster is ready. Looks like it's taking more than what I'm expecting. I don't know if any problems here, but any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a limit to how much it can be backup?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let me show you from here. So this is a very simple use console. You got the service plan here. actually. You probably won't be able to see from here. So they do have a different, options for the chargeable option, but let me show you the free options here. So if you go to the website, and from here there is a pricing, and this is the forever free version. You can see they do provide a free for up to 100 gigabytes. It doesn't care how many cluster, how many nodes you're running. Okay, that's I do see for the customer running Kubernetes cluster, you don't see like a running, multiple terabytes. 100, gigabytes, probably you can back up a majority of your clusters already. Because right now, still not many customers running the state of application inside of the containers yet, but the trend is more and more customer moving the container, the backups, in, the database inside of the container. That becomes, bigger and bigger. Okay. So right now you do provide, there are some other restrictions like a maximum 30 days retention. But in general, it's always free. You can try if for your testing, for your learning, just sign up an account. It doesn't have any restrictions. But if you do need more capacity, that's where they have the different chargeable option too. I don't know what's happening with the cluster right now. But anyway, let me open another tab. And I'm going to verify here. So while we're waiting here, is there any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So you mentioned earlier about cross cloud and private clusters, but interoperable backup. How does it deal with mapping in terms of like different implementation? So for example, like on-premise clusters wouldn't necessarily have the same storage clusters, different type of load balancers. So how does it deal with it?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a very good question because from a different cloud, or maybe from a cloud comparing to on-premise, you're running completely different Kubernetes distributions, completely different, storage class. That's where you need the transformation. So for example, if I was running from on-premise, it could be you're running, OpenShift or running, VMware Tanzu or Rancher, you're using different storage class. When you do the restore, so first of all, you do the backup from the source cluster, whatever you're running. I want to move to Google Cloud. When you move to Google Cloud, you're using different storage class, right? And the part of the restore process, it allows you to change the storage class, basically to transform the storage class from your on-premise to the cloud. That's how it makes you to have the portability or a mobility to allow you to easily from one cluster to the other. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like the cluster got some issues. So let me just create another one. It shouldn't be taking more than 6 minutes typically. Any other questions?
Yeah. So I want to ask this service manages the backup for you, and then and the data goes out from the cloud, right? Then does that include like egress costs?
So the cloud typically they only charge you the egress cost. So when you move, say, from one cloud to the other, you will be charged by the source cloud. The target cloud, they don't charge the ingress, but you will be charged from the source cluster. They will charge you the egress cost. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I mean is like, let's say I'm working my service on AWS, and I want to move out. I want to move the backups out to another account, right? So would I be charged for ingress cost my AWS account?
I'm pretty sure if you want to, let's say from AWS, you want to move to Google, AWS will charge you the egress cost because you are moving from their cloud to somewhere else.
Yeah. So let's say we're using the service, right? So this service, we're moving the backup onto the service, right? So wouldn't that cost less?
Yeah, that's a very good question. But this storage here, I believe you still will be charged. So the question is, when they use the Cloud Casa for the backup, let's say I back up my EKS cluster. Now I want to restore to my GKE cluster. So when you do the backup, when I do the backup, I do the snapshot and then I copy it to the object storage. It depends on which object storage you are using. From that time, you're probably already being charged because you are moving data to the object storage. It could be you're using, Cloud Casa, the managed storage from a different region, could be from a different cloud. You will be charged from that moment. But when you are restore the data, actually it's already sitting from the managed storage. Could be managed by Cloud Casa or your own storage. But you're restoring, I give you this example. You back up from AWS, you export it to Google Cloud Storage. Assuming you're going to move from AWS to GKE, you might want to use Google Cloud Storage. The reason is your data is already sitting here. I can easily do the import. So you only be charged by AWS for the egress cost. Your data already sitting here. I can easily import to Google Cloud. Yeah. Okay.
Any other question from the call?
Yeah, when we talk about backup, so there are two strategies we use, that is maybe the deployment objective or the recovery time objective. I'm not sure whether that kind of strategy is applicable over here or not as well.
It is typically in the Kubernetes world. I do see customers have more aggressive, the backup RTO. So the RPO typically, when you talk about the backup, I will show you shortly. But let me answer you this way. Let me cancel this one. I do need a cluster to show you. Otherwise, I can't show you much stuff.
Any other questions?
You know what I'm going to do is show you from scratch. I just do a new git clone and I'm going to run another cluster. Yeah. So what I did is I just did another clone and I just changed it to the directory, run the command gk-deploy. I don't know what's happening from the last one. It just taking more time. It doesn't show me anything yet. So while we are waiting here, any other questions? Otherwise, I might just jump back to the slide.
Just raise your hand if you have questions. I'm having the mic standing behind.
So I'm gonna walk you through here on the high level. You sign up an account and you can add your cloud account. You will discover all of your cluster, but you can also have the option to manually to add your cluster. Could be not running from a cloud, could be running from another cloud, which is not able to automatically discover. Then you just create a policy, define a backup, and that's it. And the other cool stuff I really want to talk about is so far I see, from what I can see, is the only vendor provides the security scan, part of the backup tool. You can scan your cluster, you can scan your cloud account for what? For your container security, for your configuration. You might have misconfiguration, you might have some vulnerability. We will do the CIS benchmark scan, your network scan as well. It's pretty cool, actually. I do love it. You are not talking about the backup. You also need to make sure your cluster is secure, your cloud is secure. So I can show you shortly. So while we're waiting for the cluster, so I come back to the Cloud Console. So this is a Cloud Console here. If I go to the security options here, so right now actually there's still in beta version, but I already tried a few times and it looks like it's pretty cool. If I click the security, you can see. So you do have the options. You can do cluster scan. That means your Kubernetes cluster scan. And you can do the cloud scan. That means I want to scan my cloud account to see if there is any security issues. Is there any vulnerability? Is there any misconfiguration? So if I check the scan history, you can see I did a scan earlier. So if I click the scan for Yong here, you can see it will give you some more details about your scan. Did I remove this one? Let me see. So if you click the scan details, it will give you the details, the dashboard, like the overall score and how secure your environment. So do you have any critical, issues? Do you have any, failed problems? And how many are warnings? How many are, passed the security scan? Which is pretty cool to me. We're not just talking about the container backup. You also need to secure your environment. Do you have the visibility? Without say any other tool, you don't have the visibility. So with the security scan, you can also view by the service to say which service, are more secure. So for example, this one, you might have some problems. You can click the details. It will give you some more details. Why there is some, warning, why it did not pass the scan. You can also view by the security, severity, or have the detailed views. Okay, that's about a cloud account. Let me see the cluster scan. Let me try this one. This one. Yeah, it is. What I can do is you can actually, once my cluster is ready, you just create just like your backup job, you create a scan job. So you can schedule the job, say, I want to scan every day. I want to schedule the security scan every hour or every 20 minutes. So you just add a new scan job. So, but let me see if the cluster right now, it's all right. Yeah, it looks like this time it works. So you can see my cluster actually, it's already up running. Did you guys notice it's running the 1.25? Did you guys know Google Cloud is always the first to add the support for the latest version? Based on my CloudWatch for the last 3 release, Google is always the first cloud to have the latest managed version support. And you can notice from the bottom of the screen, it takes 5.5 minutes, not just to create the cluster, we also have the 5.5 minutes. And also we have the PostgreSQL database that has been installed. Okay, let me see how much time we have. So my cluster is ready. I got a 1 node cluster. So now remember the next step, I need to add the cloud account. Let me show you how to add the cloud account. So I'll come back for the security scan. That's the very cool piece I will show you shortly. So let me go to the configurations, go to the cloud account. I'm actually already added my cloud account. That's why you can see the GCP for Yongkang. That's one cloud. I also have another cloud listed here, and both are showing active. But if I did not add the cloud account, what you can do is click add a cloud account. I'm going to choose Google Cloud. The next step, and you can open in Cloud Shell. It will walk you through, actually give you a tutorial to show you what's next step. First of all, we're going to clone the repository. You need to trust the repository. Click confirm. and we will launch the Cloud Shell. And once the Cloud Shell launched, it will bring up the tutorial to show you how to configure the cloud account. So the first step, let me make it bigger. So you just click start. First of all, you need to set your project ID. If you know, Google Cloud, it's project. So you need to set which project you are going to use. So once you have this command finished, you click next. So you need to enable a few required APIs. So which API you need to enable? You need to enable the IAM, you need to enable the deployment manager and the computer engine plus the cloud resource manager API. How to enable it? You just click the link. It will take you to the screen. You just click next, click enable. We will enable all of these APIs. So once this step finishes, so the next step is you need to give it a permission. So yeah, it does require you to give the owner permission to this Google API service agent. So once you add that, actually, once you finish these, configure the cloud account, you can remove the owner rule. Okay, click next, and the last step is you just run this command. Where to get the cloud account ID? It's from here, from the cloud Casa web console. You need to get basically copy the whole command and running from the Cloud Shell. And shortly, it will complete the registration of your cloud. Once you register your cloud, you've done this job, and from the cloud, I did not complete that step because I already have the cloud account added here. What I need to do is, so let me remove this one. I just added here. So the bottom of the screen, GCP for Yongkang, that's the cloud. If I go to the clusters here, I don't have anything yet. By default, they do have some interval. They are going to run their inventory, which is auto discover how many clusters I have from my Google Cloud. But right now, the job hasn't been run yet. So I can manually run inventory. So once I run the inventory, you can see my clusters. Now I got my clusters here. So this is a cluster I just launched by the automation. It only took about 5.5 minutes. I already have the cluster here. But do I need to, how this cluster can talk to my Cloud Casa cloud account? So you need to install the lightweight agent. How to install the agent? Go back to my cloud account here. So you will see this is your cluster, but you haven't installed. The status shows discovered. We discovered your cluster, but you haven't installed the lightweight agent yet. So we're going to install the agent. How to install it? You can do just copy the command. It will be installed to your cluster. But it also allows to install automatically. Why this time it doesn't show here? So suppose when I click this earlier is from my testing, there are 3 tabs. The first tab is automatically install. You click automatically install, it will automatically do the install. But anyway, it does give you multiple options. If the cluster is not part of any one of the cloud account, you don't need to copy the command to run from the Cloud Shell. So for now, let me show you how many nodes I have. So I only have 1 node cluster here. I do have the access, so I just paste the command here, press enter. So by doing this, we're just going to install the lightweight agent for the cluster to talk to cloud, Casa, the control plane. And then you can configure the policy to run the backups. So the job already kicked off, completed. Let's see what we installed here. So basically, first of all, you install the operator, the Kubernetes agent manager, and then it will install the actual agent, the Kubernetes agent. So right now it's installing, bring up the ports up running. Just take a few seconds, it will finish. And once this job finish, from the Cloud Casa web console here, you should be able to see the status will becomes active. Yeah, it's running right now. And now you can see the status, it becomes active. So that means, you know, I already connect to my cloud account. I already connect to my cluster. Now I can define a policy to run the backup. So if I go to the dashboard here, so how to define backup? You just click a define backup. So if you check the dashboard, you can see I only have one cluster here, but I do have two accounts right now. Oh, by the way, they also allow you to do the database backup. So that means only, you know, the RDS database backup. Right now, they only support, you know, Amazon RDS, but could be in the future, they can add the support to Google, you know, SQL or some other database. Yeah. So let's define a backup. Let me make the name say PG snap and copy. So that means I want to do my PostgreSQL application, sample application has been deployed. I want to which cluster? This is my cluster. So I select my cluster. Next step, what exactly you want to backup? That's part of my, you know, backup, define the backup plan. I don't want to backup the whole cluster. You can select the individual namespace. And in this case, I just backup a Yongkang-PostgreSQL. That's my sample database. And there are some other options. You might want to do snapshot only. That means I only do the snapshot, but it's sitting in the same cluster. What if my whole cluster is gone, my whole data center is gone, you lost everything? That's why I always choose the next option. I do not only do the snapshot, I also send another copy to the object storage, which is more safe, more reliable. You can leverage the cloud object storage to avoid a ransomware attack as well. There are some advanced options, but you also have the options. Do you want to delete snapshot after copy to the external object storage? I don't like the idea to delete immediately. The reason is I want to keep it there for faster restore. Because in case something happens, I don't want to always to pull the data from the cloud. I want to some local, snapshots for quicker, faster restore. So I'm going to, disable this option. So there are additional options here. You can choose a cloud storage account. You can choose a different provider. You can choose different region. But default, they just use your default global configuration. In this case, I was using the AWS storage here from Singapore region, but you can choose your own storage as well. You can also you can define to use Google Cloud Storage, yeah. And you can also configure how many concurrent streams you want to. Do you want to restrict the max speed? I don't want to do anything here. Just click next. This is a policy I haven't shown you earlier. How often you want to do the backup? You want to do the snapshot. You have a very strict RPO. You can make it 10 minutes every 1 minute. It is also doable. But if your system need able to complete the job within 1 minute or 10 minutes, okay? So for now, you can also run an on-demand job. That means, I just run once. You can also schedule the job. I got 2 schedules here. One is do every 10 minutes. The other one is more complex. I do every hour, every day, every week, every month. Okay, I will show you shortly how to define the policy. For now, let me run the job. And click run. You can choose a different retention if you want. And then click create. The job has been created successfully. And shortly the job will be kicked off and it will be running successfully. But if you guys want to try by yourself, feel free, you can try anytime. Yeah. And once the job is kicked off, go back to the dashboard, you can see the job. This is a job, PG snap dash copy. And if I click the job details, you can see the activity log. You can see what exactly we are doing. So the high level is we're going to connect to the cluster. We're going to discover all of your resources. We're going to do the snapshot. Then we're going to copy it to the object storage. Any question? Yeah, all good? Go ahead.
Last question, yeah. Mike?
Is there going to be support for OpenShift in the future?
No, OpenShift already supported.
Okay.
Yeah, OpenShift launcher or any Kubernetes certified version are supported. So right now you can see the activity job. We're going to discover all of your resources, and we also, you can see here you got 36 VPC, you got a VPC subnet, you got how many resources, 32 resources, how many the namespace, and right now the backup job actually already finished. We're going to copy to the object storage. So from the PV details, you will see this is my PostgreSQL. There is a PVC, there is a persistent volume. So it's a CSI snapshot, volume here. And the copy job shortly will be finished, successfully here. I don't know how you guys, like the backup. I personally, I feel like if I'm going to install the backup to my cluster, I got dozens of cluster. That's not a great idea. That's the old way. Moving forward, I predict the future will be everybody love the idea. But that's why people are using cloud. That's why people are using the managed Kubernetes, the managed OpenShift. So why not using the managed backup? So I feel like that's the way to go. The backup as a service for the Kubernetes. Okay, right now the job already finished successfully. Not only we take the snapshot, we also copy to the object storage. Unless any other questions, I want to just quickly, yeah, we're already running a little bit late, but I give you a chance to ask questions. Where is the mic?
Does this product also support the incremental differential backup?
Oh, that's the very, very good question. That's a very common question. Every time I was asked, but short answer is yes, but the reality is it depends on your storage provider. What CSI driver you are using. If the CSI driver supports the incremental, it will always be incremental. So you might notice if I click the job details, you can see not only do the snapshot, do the compress, do the deduplication, you will see my original volume size is 1 GB, about how much data we copied here. So we only copy 38 megabytes. And if you run the next job, you will see how much data transfer you can see. Most of the providers, CSI driver providers right now, it's always support the incremental. So the answer is yes, yeah, they do support the incremental. So I got the job here. So how to do the restore? And that's the beauty here. I'm excited about this. If I click the restore job here, you can select any one of the copy. You can choose the primary snapshot, or you can choose the external copy from the object storage. I'm gonna just choose the copy from the primary snapshot. In the next step, you can choose to restore what exactly you want to restore. We only back up the PostgreSQL, right? So we selected the application, how you want to restore. The next, so did you guys notice here? I really want to highlight it here. Not only you can restore to your existing cluster, while you restore, part of your restore, I can create a new cluster. This is very powerful. When you talk about the DR situation, you don't need to have a standby cluster ready. I will automatically launch the new cluster for your testing verification. You might want to, just to try it out. You don't have to keep a cluster running always. It will charge you. The cloud provider will keep charging you, right? So if I choose the new cluster here, so it will give you the options. You can create the new cluster, okay? So right now, I believe they only support. So this is also possible. You can see, you can choose to restore to a different cluster. Right now, AKS is grayed out because I did not add the account yet. I only added the AWS and the GKE. That's why you only have the two options. So for now, let me show you the original cluster, which is more easy to do the restore. You can rename to a new namespace. How you want to rename? Let me say, I want to clone to a new namespace. you can append the dash clone and then click next. So you can also add the application hook. That's the one to enable the, you might want to run some job after the restore job. So click next, give a name. Let's say this is a clone and click restore. That's it. And my restore job will be kicked off, and we're going to create a new namespace from the backup. It named the same name, append the dash clone. If you want to monitor from the command line, you can see my namespace actually already created. And we're appending to bring up the container. Shortly, it will become the container creating and then becomes up running. Are we good? Are you guys with me? So simple, so easy. I love the idea to connect to the cloud, discover all of my clusters.
Yeah, I have one question.
And then just, all I need to do is just configure the policy to do the job. I complete my backup job. You do have the options to do the full restore, to clone to a new namespace, to do the granular. I haven't shown you the, you can select the individual resource to the recovery. Maybe somebody deleted the secrets role binding service account. Any one of the objects is missing will cause some problems. You do have the option to select the individual objects to do the recovery. We've done enough, talking here. I don't know any questions here. So let me just walk you through one more cool stuff from the security scan. So I already have my cluster here. How to scan my cluster? You just go to the security scan here. Actually, it's under here. I can create a scan job. Let me create a new scan job. Let's say I want to scan GKE. I select my cluster. This is my cluster I want to scan. And you can also send yourself an email. It will give you the report, okay? And click next. You can also schedule the security scan jobs, like the backup jobs. So I'm not going to schedule right now, but how long you want to keep? They also ask you how long you want to keep the scan job history. So the job kicked off. If I click the job details, go back to the dashboard, you can see the scan job has been kicked off. And it is running right now. The activity log here, it will initiate the security scan, create a temporary credentials, and then do the scan job of the containers, of your CIS, benchmark, your networking, etc. So typically, I tried earlier, it only take like a few minutes, the scan job will finish. And once the job is finished, from the security scan, the dashboard, it will give you the report, how secure my environment. Any question? No? I think, let me come back to the slides. What else I have? So I already touched on how to enable the security scan. You can scan your cloud. I haven't shown you yet. Time-wise, I don't want to show you everything. And I showed you how to configure the Kubernetes cluster scan. So what are the typical use case? Typically, my backup is a full restore. You might want to do full restore, granular restore, clone restore. You might want to from on-prem to the cloud, or from one cloud to the other cloud, or from one distribution to another distribution, or maybe you just want to simplify the upgrade the maintenance. And also, you want to secure the last one. You want to secure your containers, secure your Kubernetes. You want to secure your cloud. This is very cool.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a way to identify performance bottlenecks, and also if anything happens to the agent you install on the cluster, so to address such kind of issues?
I tell you what, it's just running as a containers inside of your cluster. Any tools you are using to troubleshooting, to look into the logs, the familiar tools you are using, people control logs, you can check the logs as well. Yeah. I was thinking to give everybody enough time to try yourself. We are running a little bit late, but you guys, got the idea how to get it working. So you sign up for an account and then you can get started. So including a few reference links, I will share the slide deck anyway. And I do love automation. I created the automation, literally cover all different Kubernetes distributions. And yeah, that's all I want to talk about for now. Unless any other question.
Yeah.
How do we achieve the same thing in a disconnected environment, which means I can.
Yeah, it's
internet connected one, right?
So first of all, if you're running in the cloud, you can use the private link or private endpoint. It's completely nothing to travel from the internet. But if you're running on premises, you do have the private registry to have the images to basically you Docker pull the images load to your private registry. You can do the install from there.
Okay. From my environment, the Kubernetes is running in OCP. So for this case, how I can achieve it?
So you're running on OpenShift, right?
Yeah.
So for example, here, if I go to the configurations, go to the clusters, you just add your cluster here. And from here, you do have the advanced options, your private container registry for the agent. You Docker pull the agent to load to your OpenShift, container registry. And then you can do the install from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not a problem. So let me come back here. Unless you guys have any other questions, otherwise I'm coming back to. No question? All good? Okay, let me continue here. I have something to announce. There are some events which is pretty good. I personally also signed up to join these events to learn. So I'd like to share with you guys as well. So that's the one I mentioned earlier, open mic time. If you have anything to announce, or if you feel like you can share with the community, other people can be benefits from, or maybe you just want to say hello to everybody. I was, talk about my announcement first, and then give you guys some time. So upcoming meetup. So the next one, I'm a multi-cloud guy. So I want to do the next one from Microsoft. We're going to talk about Microsoft AKS, and then Alibaba Cloud, also pretty strong in Asia Pacific. So I will talk about that one. And then I will think about the next one. So far, we only did the basic one. So first of all, you need to have the Kubernetes cluster. That's where we are learning from the first initial few meetups. But once you have the cluster, you might need to think about, I need to create a CI/CD pipeline. I need to create, to get my source code to automatically to run the application, run the integration testing to deploy. So that's something we're going to continuously to learn. Maybe, security is one of the cool area everybody loves to, you don't want to make some mistake and then becomes unsecure. There are a lot of stuff we need to learn. So I got something planned for the next few months as well. Did you guys register this event? You can save $129, but right now the code is not available anymore. It's already sold out. This is from next week. Then next week also have another one, the DevOps Talks conference. So I will share you guys the slide deck anyway, don't worry. But feel free to take pictures if you guys want. They also, basically the event organizer, they reached me out to say, if you can share with your community, I say, why not? But do you have a discount code to share with? They only give us, like a 30% discount, but this one is pretty costly. So unless your company pay, I'm not going to pay $800 for this meeting, even after $30 discount. But if your company are willing to pay, why not? It's a very good, DevOps learning for 2 days, pretty good. Okay. The next one I want to share is, did you guys hold of the Falco? Yeah, anyone know Falco? That is a pretty good. Falco actually, they made the proposal to become, soon will become a CNCF graduated project. So that's one few days ago, I saw, Twitter talk about the proposal of the Falco for CNCF graduation. So the Falco project, if you don't have much more knowledge here, I put something here. So the Falco, actually, that's the cloud native runtime security project. It is basically the de facto Kubernetes threat detection engine used almost everywhere. How it works? It will talk to your system, talk to your sys logs, and talk to your Kubernetes audit logs, talk to your cloud activity logs, cloud watch or cloud audit logs, activity logs, to find if there is any problems, if there is any misconfigurations. Basically, the idea is to make sure your environment is much more secure. So basically, if you, anyone interested, I do have some stickers to talk about the Falco. Well, it was created by Sysdig, by the way. So did you guys also notice when a project will be accepted by CNCF, it will be initially sandbox project, and then depends on the maturity level, it will finally become graduated. So Falco is almost graduated. Yeah, that's pretty cool. For security guys, definitely you need to be aware of this tool. So what is this Falco used for? So 3 key areas. So the number one, runtime security for the containers for your Kubernetes. And the second key point, real-time cloud risk detection. You can detect any, configuration changes, any intrusions, or any, data safety based, cloud, based on your cloud logs, etc. And it is open source software. You can try, but they do have the enterprise option anyway. And the last announcement, you guys are hold of the Dev Fest Singapore. Yeah? No? I will share you the slide again anyway. You don't need to pay. You don't need to pay $72 a year. Okay. I will share you the link, and you just go to the link towards the bottom. There is a small link that says submit a form. Once you submit the form, the next day you're going to receive the 100% discount code. Okay, you already did. Yeah, someone already did. And if you want, you can put my referral code, which it says you can get some chance to lucky job. But yeah, I don't really care too much. But if you want to, you can put the referral code. Any other about anyone else have anything you want to announce? Feel free. You want to come up here, or you just want to say hello.
Yeah, I have a question. Hello?
Yeah, Mike. Where is the mic?
Hello. Are you able to hear me? Hello.
Hello everyone.
Come here.
Yes, my name is Alexandre. Nice to meet you. I'm a 25 years old DevOps engineer from France, and I came in Singapore like a month ago. I'm here until December 21, and I'm looking for a job in Singapore to be able to settle here in Singapore next year maybe. So if anyone wants to share contacts with me, please free. And thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Anyone else has anything to share?
No one?
If nobody wants to, or nothing else you want to share, yeah, I'd like to. Oh, actually, I do have to give away. let's, yes, I want to just ask you as a question. So talk about the Cloud Casa. What do you guys learned about the Cloud Casa? It's maybe just one thing you really exciting, you love it. Yeah. That's great. That's great. Yeah, yeah. Boomi.
Yeah.
I want to ask you another question about, file code. What's the file code used for?
Identify vulnerability
We can be more specific. It's more general.
I mean, yeah, the file code actually. Let me ask you this: what file code is really good at? So you guys see we talk about the file code. Yeah, I want to ask. Yes, security scan, these parts, the container security, Kubernetes security, definitely. That's the one.
I don't want to go for it. Okay, let's go for others.
I also have a stick. There's provided some, stickers. Anyone wants, comes here to just take it. Yeah, to give it a try. Yeah, there are some security is so important. If no other questions, nobody wants to say anything, we must thank you very much for coming to join us to learn. Very much appreciated. We're also looking for volunteers. Maybe just take a photo, say maybe just, a LinkedIn post our, meetup, next meetup. Yeah, very much appreciated for joining us. And if you guys don't mind, we might take a group photo. Is that all right? We come or in front, we will take a photo from the other side. Yeah, thank you very much. So for those of you joining us online, very much appreciate this. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, we're done here. Thank you. Have a good night.